Hello, and thank you for tuning in. This 10-minute clip that you're about to watch was taken from Pivot's recent Broadband label forum. We pulled together a small discussion with some Pivot clients just in order to get a pulse of where everyone is at in processing this new FCC order. Monica Santi is our VP of Marketing Services, and she's been spearheading this Broadband label effort for us here at Pivot. And in this presentation, she lays out some key points that we think you should know. Please reach out if you have any questions about what you hear or if we can help support you in any way.
Great. Thank you, Dave. So as Dave said, I'm going to do a brief overview of the order. It's the Reader's Digest version. And for those of you, it's still published, the Reader's Digest. And, they go in and they do condensed versions of novels. So hence why I call that. I'm going to go fairly quickly because, again, we want to focus on having you answer some poll questions and talk to each other. So please, questions in the chat, I'll answer them throughout the forum. I'll reply to those that I can. All right, so first up, we're going to talk about each of you has a special date. So for those of you who have more than 100,000 broadband subscriber lines, your special date is April 10th for broadband label compliance. All others, those with fewer than 100,000 subscriber lines, have until October 10th. All providers, regardless of size, have until the 10th to make that label available on the customer's online portal. Had some questions in the pre-survey we did with the invite as to what services are subject to labels. In short, it's standalone, mass-marketed broadband access service plans. So if you bundle internet with other things, you don't have to have a label for that ... right now. That could change, of course. Special enterprise service offerings or special custom service offerings you put together for business customers don't fall under this order. The label format, I think we're all familiar with this. We know it's based off the nutrition label on food products. Bailey's going to talk about an option for generating and managing those labels. The FCC also will have some tools as well. At least one of you asked about unique ID. So at the very bottom of the label, each plan you have has to have a unique ID. And that is a formula that starts with F or M based on if it's a fixed plan or a mobile plan. Then your FCC registration number, and then it ends with 15 alphanumeric characters that you, the provider, assign. And because it's a unique ID, you can't reuse it. So if you archive a plan, you can't 5 years down the line pull up that unique ID again. Another aspect to the under label formatting is all the labels have to be together in one file format, such as a CSV file on a dedicated URL. And that is that for the reason that the FCC wants to make it easy for third-party providers, or not providers, but third-party companies to come in and pull label information from a variety of carriers and put it together to so that consumers have aggregate data that they can look at. Accessibility, so the labels must be accessible to people with disabilities at all points of sale. And in particular, ISPs are strongly encouraged to comply with ADA and web content accessibility guidelines. Strongly encouraged, and that is something under consideration to make that a requirement. For right now, it's strongly encouraged, as it should be. All our websites should be accessible. ISPs are required to display the labels in English and in any other language in which you market services. So if you translate advertisements and materials into Spanish, for example, you would then need to also have labels in Spanish. Grandfathered plans and archive of labels. So when your special date comes, whether it's April 10th or October 10th, at that point, you only need to have labels for plans you currently offer. If you have customers on grandfathered plans, at the time of your special date, you don't have to make labels for those. However, going forward, after you come to your special date, if 2 months after implementation, you decide to archive a plan, and you may have customers on it, but you're no longer going to sell it. At that point, that's when you need to have a label archived for at least 2 years. And then be able to provide that to an existing customer who asks for it, or of course the FCC if they want to see it. Point of sale, here's where we get into where we put labels for consumers to see them. So I'm taking this directly from the order. As of time, we, the FCC, define point of sale as a moment a consumer begins to investigate and compare broadband service plans available to them at their location. As for location, we define point of sale as both ISP websites and any other channel through which service is sold, including ISP-owned retail locations, third-party owned retail locations, and over the phone. So note here, this isn't something you have to put on mass marketing advertising. This isn't about advertising labels. This is about providing them to consumers who are actively in the decision-making process. So point of sale for a website. The FCC considers the website point of sale to be the primary web page where consumers can see plans available to them and begin to shop and compare. So if your website has some sort of location information that a consumer has to go through to then see what's available to them, that could be address, selecting a city, a county, a state. The labels don't have to appear until after that after that location information is established in the site. Then that would need to be served up to the consumer when they can see all the plans available to them. If you don't have any sort of address or location filtering, and a lot of our clients don't, then yours would be on the page where you're presenting all the plans. Labels must be displayed in close proximity to the associated plan advertisement, and they must be viewable on all devices, including mobile devices. Retail point of sale. So there are options for compliance when somebody is in your store. It could be hard copy, but that is not required. It could also be, you could hand a consumer a card with a QR code or a URL that they could use their phone to access it. And or you could provide a tablet or a computer in your office that somebody could go and pull up a website with that information on it. Phone is a fun one. So if a consumer is shopping for broadband service on the phone with you, you must read the label or labels in entirety to the consumer. It's implied here that if the consumer asks for that not to happen, that would be okay, but that is how the order reads. Bit on other types of notifications. So the online account portable, the only label accessible to a customer in their online portal is their own label for the service to which they subscribe. So you don't have to put all labels there, but just that one label. And that is October 10th compliance date for everyone, even large providers. Good news, you don't have to put it on the monthly bill. So I think that's good news. And a note on that also, I think it's nice that if you do some sort of price change or you increase the speed of a package, you have whatever your process is internally to notify customers about that. When you do that, you don't have to also share the new label. The FCC recognizes that could be deemed as confusing. And so that's another bit of good news to share. Documentation and training. So originally, when in the original order, when a consumer was going to be directed to an alternative sales channel, and that's defined as retail location or phone, originally you were going to have to document each instance, like for each consumer where you referred them to. They backed away from that and instead are putting in place, you just have to have documented business practices and processes that dictate how labels are shared based on various situations, retail location versus phone, and then have training materials also, and keep that on file to show to the FCC that you do have processes in place to share these labels. One last thing before I turn it back over to Dave, keep in mind the FCC has said that there very well could be further clarification and modifications could come down. So they're still looking at how to handle bundle services and whether or not they're going to require specific things around accessibility on websites, etc. So stay tuned. We'll certainly be staying tuned and let you know. So that is your very high level, very fast overview. And now going to turn it over to Dave to let the forum begin.